What's happening? Facebook. Interesting thing I came up with today. I was on a call with the gentleman who is helping me launch my podcast, and during this conversation, he's like, Mario, he goes, also, I need you to download this because here's where you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Now, I am somewhat computer illiterate. I love technology. Hey, Chris, how are you? I was just saying, Chris, how today I was having a conversation with a gentleman who's helping me with my podcast. Asked me to download an app. I had to do, and certain things I had to do, and I am not the most technologically savvy individual whatsoever. So I started Googling, and hey Alyssa, so I started Googling because I'm like, all right, so if I have to learn how to do this, I got to figure this out. But bam, I've got to figure this out. So I started Googling how to learn, and it was like weird because then I turned to get my piece of paper to see what he said, and all of a sudden this article came up, or a bunch of articles came up. And it was YouTube, so I'm like, all right, I'll hit it. I'm a curious guy. I'm a very curious guy. And this video came up by a gentleman called Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I think this is fascinating. I think it's fascinating what he said. And he said 95% of our life comes from the programming of life and how to live life. That we get between the ages of 0 to 7 years old. So 0 to 7 is when 95% of all the programs are pushed in our subconscious mind. I thought it was interesting. And that's when he went on to say, and I posted about this last summer, and I got a lot of heat for this. And he said that the Matrix, it's not science fiction. It's actually a documentary. And so now I got more intrigued. And I'm like, okay, who is this Dr. Lipton? I got to finish listening to this. So basically, anything you learn from 0 to 7 is the equivalent of hypnosis. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And it's because of something called theta. From 0 to 7, hey, Tracy, from 0 to 7, we have a very low frequency of consciousness. So it's very low. So what is theta? Theta is imagination. So from 0 to 7, we are using our imagination. So, kids play Tea Party or whatever it is. To them, it's real. It's not fake. It's not imagination. It's actually real. And I thought that was interesting. And he went on to say that before we can be conscious, you have to have programming. And for instance, like when we're younger and we're looking at nature, we're just learning about nature. When we're just walking around or just looking around, that is how we're learning. And then he went into Rich Dad, Poor Dad to elaborate on this. And he's like, look, he goes, if you ever read the book, it's by Robert Kiyosaki. If you ever read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you will know that if you grew up in a poor family and that family told you, and this is total unconscious behavior. If you're told, well, you're never going to amount to anything, just go do this, who do you think you are? That's what you're going to believe. That's the program. That's what's stuck in your head. That's what you know. But if you come, and that's why most of the poor stay poor. That's like he put down as a fact. Whether it is, I don't know, but I found it very intriguing. Now, if you come from a rich family, and these are his words, not mine. I don't like to call people stupid. But he said it doesn't matter how stupid you are, you're going to make the right moves unconsciously, because that's all they know. That's what they're programmed to know. That's what they're programmed to understand. And I was completely fascinated by it. And only about 5% of the life that we're living right now, 5% of the life we're living right now is actually conscious. And the person who was interviewing with him said something fantastic. I absolutely was blown away. He said, so basically what you're saying is your life is being lived. How did he say it? Hey Marcos, hey Christopher, hey Howard. Thank you, Chris. Your life is being lived. Oh, your life is being lived. You are not living your life. So you know how I say, like, people are alive, but they're not living? That's really it. It's all the programming. It's a programming of society. It's a programming of your parents. It's a programming of your teachers. Everything that's put into our heads, we are taught to believe. Strictly believe it. What was really cool, and I don't know how many know about Jesuits, Jesuit study. I don't know much about it. But he said the Jesuits have known this for 400 years, and they would actually stake the claim. You give me your child from 0 to 7, and I will show you the man. Like, imagine that. Like, think about that. Like, they knew for 400 years, hey, Simon, how are you? Marcos, again. Imagine they've known this for 400 years. And the person interviewing said, well, is there a solution? And here's where it gets really interesting. Here's where I always talk about, why do people quit? Why don't people give up? Why don't people take risks? Why don't people take chances? The whole 9 yards. And so he says the solution, he goes, think about anything you struggle with in life. Or why are you working so hard at something? Because you have a program already in your mind that you're trying to override. You can't override that program. So what is the solution? If your program does not support the destination that you're trying to go to. I mean, guys, really think about this. I want you to really think about this. This is crazy. The subconscious mind works in 2 ways. And he said the only 2 ways, hey Edwin, the only 2 ways the subconscious mind works is 1, hypnosis, and that's from the age of 0 to 7 years old. You're in a hypnotic state, you're learning, you can't listen, whatever, especially when you're 3, 4 years old. And the next was repetition. Repetition. And so I'm thinking to myself, and I'm got on this program that Zach told me to do. And like I said, I'm technologically illiterate. I outsource everything. And I just started doing it over and over again. The first 5 times, man, I wanted to break that computer in half. I wanted to rip the computer apart. I'm not even kidding you. I wanted to, Joe Dispenza, he's awesome, yes. Neurolinguistic programming, he's fascinating. But I really did. But I kept doing it and 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 doing it. And lo and behold, by repetition, I programmed myself to learn this program. Fascinating. I didn't give up. I didn't quit. I didn't say I'm not going to pursue this because I don't get it. I'm not going to pursue this because I'm struggling with it. That is where affirmations come in. So basically, the interviewer again asked Dr. Lipton, he said, well, how do people get out of that state of believing everything that they were programmed to believe? How do you deprogram yourself? And he said, if you keep, and he brought up happiness. I love talking about happiness too. And he brought up happiness and he said, well, if someone keeps telling themselves they're happy and they keep saying they're happy, even if they're not, they keep saying, hey Chris, they keep saying they're happy, they keep saying they're happy, they keep saying they're happy. Eventually the subconscious mind has to give in and say, this person's happy. This person's happy. So he was putting it like this. He tried to make another analogy. He said, most people try to just remind themselves by putting a sticky note on the refrigerator. And he said the sticky note is nothing more than a suggestion. Think about that. Really think about that. But an affirmation becomes repetitive. And if it becomes repetitive, it becomes a habit. And if you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it over and over again, guess what? Your subconscious mind has to come along with it and pass that information to your conscious mind. This all came from talking to a gentleman about starting my podcast. And this is something I really want to share with you guys. I think this is absolutely fascinating. So now I took it a step further. And I went in and I started Googling repetition. Nothing really came up what I wanted. I started Googling repetition for success, repetition. And all of a sudden I realized that repetition is nothing more than not giving up. Repetition is continuously doing the things that are going to put you on that path you want to be to get you to your destination. Instead of having to override the programs that have already been programmed in your mind. Think about that. Like, that blows my mind. That absolutely blows my mind. And I was really fascinated by it. And I think that the lesson that I got and the lesson I'm trying to pass on to you, I'm not saying that you guys don't know this already. Maybe some of you do. I didn't know. I didn't know repetition was the same thing as not giving up. So think about, for instance, when something doesn't become a habit. Someone does bad in school. Someone tries something new, a new craft, a new whatever, and they just give up because they just don't get it because it hasn't been programmed in their mind yet. But if they keep doing it and doing it and doing it, my God, these people don't give up. They become successful at it. To me, it's truly fascinating. I thought this was absolutely fascinating. Any questions? I mean, this was really cool. Chris, it was, to give it to you real quick, I'm sure you'll watch the replay anyway. I was working with someone on launching my podcast today. He made me download an app. I had to do this. I told him it was something I'd have to outsource. He goes, this is not something you can outsource. This has to come from Mario. I'm not technologically literate, so I went and I started Googling, and I came across, by accident, this guy, Dr. Lipton, who was talking about the fact that our minds are most susceptible to learning and through hypnosis when we are between the age of 0 to 7. And I found it fascinating, and I kept pursuing it. And what I thought was interesting is, and if you guys go back to my feed, I think it was July. I think it was on the beach last year. I was on the beach last year. It was last weekend of July, the last week of July, the first week of August. I actually put up a post, The Matrix is a documentary. And then I see Dr. Lipton put that up. So I thought it was pretty cool. So I thought this was interesting. You know, if you guys are live, share this video. I think it's pretty awesome. I think that this one is something that people are really going to resonate with. So please share it. If you come back and watch on the replay, let me know you were here for the replay. I thought this was fascinating. I really did not understand it until I really listened to this video a number of times. But I think people will get a lot of value out of this. And I think, especially in the times we're in right now, if we could start getting repetition in our heads, like we're repetitively waking up knowing we're not going to work, we're not going to do our things except for the heroes, the nurses and the doctors and everyone else. But like that's repetitive. So, you know, repetitiveness to me is waking up, going for my 10,000 steps, working out. You know, that's what I've made my days, and making sure I'm repetitive in doing my Facebook Lives and getting out there to people. Yeah, Chris, I'm sure. Hey, Peter, how are you? So this is something I think that is really cool. Chris, share this video because you've got a big audience. I would love for people to hear about this. This would be really cool, and I would appreciate it too. You're a big supporter. So yeah, this all came through talking to an expert in podcasts who's helping me build it out so I can launch it as quickly as possible, and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to share this with you guys. So it was something different than coronavirus and adaptation and, you know, what the future holds and the whole landscape changing in the world and everything else. However, if anybody saw that post I put up by Gerard Adams, how did he put it? Nothing will ever be normal. Normal wasn't working anyway. So I thought that was pretty cool. He nailed it. I would have loved to have come up with that because that's a pretty cool way of putting it. I love creative people. I love people who are changing the world, and that's why we're here, and that's why I'm talking to you guys. I hope you found value in this. I certainly found value in it. I hope you found value with this. And you know, I love having questions, but I don't think anyone have any questions on this subject. So I'm just going to tell you guys thank you very much. I love you all. Everyone who jumps on, all your support. It's absolutely fantastic. Keep elevating yourself, elevate others. Let's change the world. Ba-bam, peace. Nicholas, you got to watch the replay. This is fascinating, and please share it. Please share it. I think this is the coolest thing ever. My brother Nicholas. Nicholas has a great launch. Anybody who needs a funnel, a sales funnel built, make sure you get Nicholas Dodge. Go straight to him. I'm not kidding you. But anyway, guys, listen. Keep elevating yourself. Elevate others. Ba-bam. Love you. Peace. I'll see you guys either. I don't even know what today is. What's today? Wednesday? Tomorrow's Holy Thursday. We'll give it a break. I'll probably either see you tomorrow night or Friday. But anyway, it was awesome. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again soon. Love you. Peace.